All right, so last time we were able to get information from our API and render it to a page, but I also want to make it so that we can create a new wine and add it to our database. So to do that, I'm going to need a form. So I'm going to create a new route. And this one I'm going to call add wine. And we'll give it added a component called add wine page, which we're going to have to make. Import add wine page from /pages /add wine page.js. Make a new file called add wine page.js. And before I get into this, I'm also going to update my wine API method to wine API file to create an add wine method. Async. It's going to take a wine object as an argument. And I'm going to say, so, let response equal await fetch. And we're going to go to http://coresanywhere.herokuapp.com /https Noah Kilo Platoon wine API.herokuapp app.com /wines/new. And then as the second argument, I'm going to add
These
headers. Yes?
It's secure. You got just HTTP without the S right above you, beginning of the blank line section between 14 and 15.
Beginning of the
or before no, well, it's between 14 and 15.
Oh.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Thank you. All right, I'm going to add some headers. And what's the header we usually add? There's a bunch of headers we can add, but there's one we almost always use.
Content type.
Yep. Content type is going to be application JSON. Our method is going to be post. And our body is going to be json.stringify with our wine object. I could say let new wine equal await response.json. And then we return our new wine. So this is just adding a wine, and then if it's successful, we're going to return that new wine. In this case, I'm not going to add too much I'm not going to worry too much about error handling just yet. I also need to make sure I'm exporting it. All right, so I don't remember if I already installed React Bootstrap. Does anyone remember?
I think you did because you also wanted to do React Bootstrap table. So yeah. I think you did the Bootstrap originally.
Yeah, well, we'll find out pretty quickly if I haven't imported it yet. So I'm going to import React from React. And I'm also going to get useState. I'm going to import form and button from React Bootstrap. And I'm also going to import wine API from /API/wine API. And finally, I'm going to import something, well, I'm going to import something called redirect from React Router. And we'll see what we're going to use that soon.
Is it supposed to be React Router or React Router DOM?
This is from React Router. All right, so I'm going to have my function add wine page. Export default add wine page. Return div. All right, so we're having a bunch of is defined but never used. That's fine. Make sure we can go to our add wine page here. All right, nothing's broken yet. Take a look at the inspector. Failed prop type, invalid prop exact of type string supplied to route, expected Boolean. Did I do React Router wrong? Oh, oops. Exact path equals. There we go. Go to my components. I should see my add wine page. Here it is. All right, so now let's create a form. So using the React Router down, I'm going to have a form here. Inside of it, I'm going to have a form.group. In form.group, I'm going to have a control ID. This one's going to be wine name. We're going to have a form.label for wine name. And form.control here. And that's one form group. I'm going to make a couple more for the other fields. Keep on, got to make sure I know I have 5 fields I need. Okay. 4 and 5. So this one's going to be varietal, region, price and price, and then vintage and vintage. And then finally at the bottom, I'm going to have a button. We're going to have the type equals submit. I would say submit inside here. Take a look at what gets rendered. So a very basic looking form. I should be able to turn this into a date one, I believe. So if I go to form.control for my vintage, I should be able to do type equals date. So now I can do it this way. So this is just using React Bootstrap to make a simple form. So I've got my larger form wrapper, and inside of that I've got form groups, labels, and controls. And that kind of handles a lot of the logic here for us a bit. So now I need to make it actually do something when I submit a new wine. So I'm going to make a new function. I'm going to call this handle submit. I'm going to take event as an argument here because we want to event.prevent default. And just to make sure it works, console.log event.target. So that should allow us to see that it's working. And then here I'm going to say on submit equals, what did I just call it? Handle submit. So I haven't had it actually do anything yet. All I want to do is make sure that I can register the event. Yep, here's my event.target with my form. And so now I have the choice of, all right, do I want to use event.target.elements, or do I want to use, give everything its own individual ID? I like using event.target.elements just because I know what order they're in now, and I don't have to add new things to all of my things. But again, there's many ways to handle that. I'm going to create a wine object. Say wine name is event.target.elements0.value. What order did I do this in? Varietal. Event.target.elements1.value. Region, event.target.elements2.value. Price, event.target.elements3.value. And finally, vintage is event.target.elements4.value. So that creates my wine object, and then I'm free to pass that to my wine API add wine function. So wine API dot add wine, wine object. And for now, I'm just going to keep it like that. And we're going to see if it updates on the back end. So anyone have a favorite kind of wine?
Moscato's pretty good.
What is?
Moscato.
Moscatos. I do like a Moscato. We'll call this one good wine. I don't know. Comes from Argentina. Price is $299. Vintage was, oh, this is slick. Make this a good 2004. Hit submit. Right now, nothing happens. Okay, we've got an issue though. Unexpected token in JSON at position 0. 503 service unavailable is the error I'm getting. So this may be something with how this particular Heroku app is set up that I'm not really savvy to, because it's been a while since I've used it. So I'd have to, I hope my endpoint is correct. I'm going to try something real quick. Try it with Postman. So try it this way first. In the body, I'm going to have my wine name, wine price, varietal, region, and vintage. Hit send. All right, so it looks like it worked here. Success, you've created a new wine. I'm going to refresh the page here. So it worked through Postman, so it's Looks like it was not a problem with the endpoint. I've got the correct endpoint. I believe so, at least. All right, let's take a look at that error again. So we got an error 503, service unavailable. So either something's wrong with how we, so usually a 500 error means something's going wrong on the server side, not on our side. But that could also mean that we did something wrong with how we set this up. I'm gonna try this one more time, see what happens. We just hit submit without it. So now we get an error 500 instead. We keep on getting that unexpected token, line 22 here. So by console.log new wine, what actually gets sent back to us?
Does that have to do with the await in between the return, before the return? Because you're saying let new line is equal to the await. So it's wait, the new line's wait, or new wine is waiting for response. But before that happens, it's returning an empty new wine.
I'm not sure, because we were able to use let wines equal await response.json here without any issue. So I feel like something's going wrong with our fetch request. If I do console.log new wine here, hit submit. Yeah, service unavailable. I'm going to try something real quick. I'm going to try taking out the cores anywhere on this because, again, I believe this Heroku app should be set up to accept it without cores anywhere. See if that changes anything. If this is a cores anywhere issue. Nope, okay. It doesn't have cores set up. Good to know. Because that's what happens if we do it without the cores anywhere. Is we get that has been blocked from by cores policy. So put cores anywhere back. And we still need to figure out exactly what happened. So if I console.log response instead, let's see if we can get that. Okay, here's our response. Type cores URL that, status 503. Okay, does that tell, can we learn anything more about that? Service unavailable. Never seen this one before.
When you did the Postman, you went straight to the Heroku app without using the cores. So maybe the cores is down, because it doesn't sound like it, they're kind of acting in the middle.
Well, let's see what happens if we try to. So we can still contact it through cores anywhere when we make a GET request. So the problem is we get an error 503 when we try to fetch it this way. All right, I'm not really sure what to make of this just yet. So I do error 503. Backend fetch failed. This seems like it might be helpful. Okay, that's not really helping us. All right, so that's something very specific. So that's different. Gonna try something here real quick. Body stream is locked. Well, that's different. So we can't. So we get that error, and it's not JSON parsable. So that's what's happening. I just don't know why yet. Not sure. Tom, do you have any insight into this? Because I'm not really sure what to make of it.
No, what's actually happening when you're hitting submit, it's saying like JSON stream is locked or something like that. So right there, that uncut and promise syntax error in API 14. So where it says token, it's got that open bracket. So it's actually returning an wait, return.
So I know that. So what's happening is we're getting an error 503 when we fetch it, and what we're getting back when we try to do response.json isn't parsable.
Yeah, because it is literally just like HTML.
Yeah, I just don't understand why that would be happening.
So, but if you just go to like HTTP, no Lima Platoon.
Yeah.
Oh, so we have all the lines there now. All right.
Is this one of those situations where you need like a anonymous function to handle it when it comes back?
I don't.
Right. So your response is an error.
Yeah, my response is an error is the problem. So, but I know I can post to this resource because I was able to do it through Postman.
Yeah, but it said when you did the console log up, it said it returned a promise. So you didn't actually get the response yet.
So I console.log response.
Can't you do a .then to handle your fetch that's coming back to make sure that the JSON is? I can't remember what project we were working on for that, where you guys had an example where you did a chain 2 .thens one where it handled.
So I'm going to try. Yeah. So there is a type of like something similar to fetch called .catch. So I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I'm going to change this up. So instead of that, I'm going to just return fetch and then set up some .thens. So I'll say .then response.json here. So if we get a correct response, it works. Then .catch errors console.log errors. So .catch should only trigger if something goes wrong. Yeah, so we still get that unexpected token here. We still get that error 503. That doesn't really tell us very much about what's going on.
I posted another URL that might work in the Lima channels. If you try to post a new line to that.
All right, yeah, I'll try that one.
Because it might be something with the back end. I'm having a feeling.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Let's do new.
Should it be like that?
Yep.
All right, let's see if that makes a difference. So 500 internal server error.
So probably because when you're just submitting a wine variety, that empty, nothing in it.
Yeah, so I'll try adding one with stuff in it now.
Yeah, the form isn't valid, so it's probably not, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's another internal server error.
And it might be dependent on our, because this is.
One example, I had a description. Like one of the walkthroughs, I had a description. So if you don't have a description included, maybe that's getting a validation
my
error.
Form is doing something different than what yours is expecting.
Yeah.
And again, that's just matching up the front end with the back end API and what it's expecting. So.
Yeah. So I wonder Actually, I'm going to try something. That just made me think of something here. So I'm going to console.log my wine object before I fetch it, because this could be a formatting problem with how I'm formatting the date time. I wouldn't be surprised. All right, so if I just pick a date here. Oh no, it's formatted the way it's expected here. So that's not it.
Is there any chance that clearing your cache and deleting your cookies might affect it?
It's possible, but I'm not sure.
Is vintage a date time? Is it?
Vintage is, yeah, it's set up as a date, or like as a string, I guess.
Oh, so yeah. So in your, okay, so it's just a string, but does it go into the database as a date time?
I'll have to check.
Oh yeah, I just didn't know. I mean, in mine it doesn't, so it wouldn't matter. So like
Yeah.
if it's a string in that one, so.
Being examples, probably kilos, JavaScript. Maybe React front end, is that where I keep it? All right, let's see what's happening in wine front end. Oops. Wait a second, I want to look at the back end, not the front end. Oh my God. Sorry about that. Honestly, the code's going to be the same no matter what, so. It's going to take a look in here real quick, make sure, see how I've set up my models here and everything like that. And if it's not working still, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Yeah, so the vintage is a models.date field. And my views here. So where's my new wine? So we have that if request.method is post. And if I look at my URLs, is it going, should be /wine/new. Oh. Yeah, I'm going to the right endpoint, /wine/new. Stop that. Yeah. I don't want to spend too long trying to debug this because I want to make sure that we're covering all the material I want to cover. So, like, as far as I can tell, this should be working the way I think it should be. I am not entirely sure what is causing this error. So I'm going to continue with this and just kind of pretend that it is working a bit so that we can at least, see the shape of it. So I want to apologize for this. It's, this is something that hasn't really happened. Last time I did this almost exactly the same and it worked fine. In any case. So we ever add wine page, it looks like we can't add the wine yet. That's okay. So you notice that I haven't used use state and I haven't used redirect yet, because I don't want just like a thing popping up saying, oh, hey, you successfully created a new wine. I want it to take me back to the home page whenever I create a new wine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up some state. I'm going to have const, I'm going to call this one redirect and set redirect. And this is going to be a Boolean. So I'm going to say use state. It's going to be false by default. And then after I wine API.add wine, I'll have a .then. I'll have response. And inside, after I set the response, I'm going to say set redirect to true. And then what I want it to happen is I want it to be kind of I want it to either depending on whether redirect is true, to either return the form or return what's called return a redirect thing from the React router. So I could just say, if redirect return a redirect here. I'm going to set it to the home page. Else, I'm just going to wrap up everything here inside this else statement.
Do we even need to have that else? Because if it did do the actual update as we were wanting to do, it hits true, then it hits this return, and it's not going to be coming back to the rest of the function. I mean, I know, yeah, it's more or less just so you didn't have to do all the extra moving around, but.
Yeah, so essentially I just want this component to have two things it can return based on the state. So state by default starts out as false. So if it is false, we will skip this return and go straight to this one. And then when we update state by submitting the form, it'll trigger, this will be set to true. It'll trigger a re-render, and then this if will be triggered. That's the idea. And hopefully that'll work even if our form isn't actually submitting anything. So the form didn't successfully submit, and if I wanted to, make this more robust, I would say only do that if it's a successful submission. But at the moment, I submit the form and it immediately redirects me to localhost 3000. So not the most elegant, website or anything like that, and not entirely functional, but it is partially functional. And I'll take that right now. So any questions about how we did this form?
What was the point? Is it required for Bootstrap so you can style or something? The control IDs and the forms? And
so you mean with like the event.target.elements?
well, not the event.target. I understand that one pretty well. Just we scroll down a little bit into the next section with the the control ID equal varietal. Is that just a different way of saying this the name, or is that
so that's
similar
how
to a class ID or ID or?
Yeah, that's kind of helping setting up the form. So if I go back to my form here, we can kind of take a look at how it's just add wine, not wine/new. So you can take a look here, and it says it kind of sets up all this stuff. So the label class is form label, the for equals wine name, and the input ID equals wine name. So that kind of sets up this formatting for us when it gets turned into HTML.
Okay, and then I guess you could use it that way to reference the way we did it to pass it in to create it as the object. Yeah, the field name. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that would actually essentially allow us to do the document.element by ID method here without us having to manually add IDs to each part of this, just using the control ID instead. Okay, so last thing I want to show you is what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my non-working Django app, because I want to show you how to set up it up to receive cores. Again, like my Lima Platoon Django app isn't working yet, but I can still set up the cores stuff and show you how that works. So I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to have to get to my Django app. Django API. All right, so I am currently in my this Django API. Going to make sure I activate my virtual environment. I'm going to pip install Django cores headers. And then I'm going to do pip, I think I need to cd into wine API, pip freeze requirements.txt. Then I'm going to open up the settings in my Django project. I'm going to find my middleware section. And in middleware, I'm going to add cores headers.middleware .cores middleware. I'm also going to add Django.middleware.common middleware. What the?
I
Get
think
outta
you
here.
already had that one on line 47, or is that
Oh.
different?
So I did. Okay, so I don't need to add that as well if it's already there. Wait, actually, I think I know what I need to do. I need to make sure that those two lines are at the top. That's the problem. So I'm gonna move common middleware up here as well. Make sure they get some priority. Then I'm going to, let's see here, is this, I don't remember if this is already available or not. We may need to create this ourselves. Yep, all right, so I'm gonna say cores origin whitelist equals, and then you would say something like, you know, your full site URL without HTTP, like with no HTTPS / blah 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 .herokuapp.com. So you just say, you know, so if this was deployed, I would say, you know, winefrontend.herokuapp.com. And that's how you make sure that you can set something, whitelist something so that you don't have to use cores anywhere anymore. And obviously, before you do that, you need to make sure that you deploy your React project to Heroku. So we can do that as well. I will show you how to, adding a React project to Heroku is a lot easier than adding a Django project. So want to get out of this virtual environment. Uh-oh, may have broken something. Is it just deactivate? There we go. So I'm going to go to Heroku and log in. Let's create a new project, create a new app. Call this one Noah Lima Wine Frontend. And then here, I'll do a Heroku login. Get init. Then Heroku, just copy this line without the $sign. Then we do our git add, git commit. -m, deploying to Heroku, and git push Heroku master.
Just so I'm on the right page, I'm looking up the top. So we got the Django. So we're looking at the back end up at the top, but down below, you actually did log in on your console. On your bash, you actually are in the
Yes.
front end terminal. Okay.
Yeah, so on the front end terminal, I navigated back into the front end project. I just didn't refresh the what's up here.
Okay. And then would we have to, since we technically made a change, in theory, go back and do like a, another git commit on the back end if we had to adjust the setting for the course, and then do git push Heroku master. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So whenever you want to update a deployed Heroku project, it's just like pushing changes that you made on GitHub to master. You just have to git push Heroku master instead of git push origin. So if I wanted to keep this change in my Django API, that's how I would do it.
I had some other questions in regards to Heroku, but I guess we can wait until after. I just figured we can kill a little time while it's compressing and doing its thing. The staging or pipeline, is that similar to like branching with Git and everything?
Let's see here. So let's see. It's pipelines that you connect multiple apps together and promote code between them. So let's see here. I haven't really worked much with pipelines, so I'm not super sure.
Okay, yeah, because the way it kind of approached things when I was trying to post it looked like I had to add it to a staging. So you had like a staging, supposedly staging and production and some dev. So you could have like 3 different versions. So I was taking it as it was a branch. I just wanted to see if you guys can verify that.
Yeah.
But,
I don't think it's the same as like a Git branch. Tom, do you have any insight into this?
Oh, the pipeline?
Yeah.
Add this app to a stage and a pipeline to enable additional features. No, I've never dealt with that. I think it's like when you like push to, I don't know actually.
Yeah. And as you can see, again, my Heroku stuff isn't working. I really have no idea what's been going on with this, because there shouldn't be that much you need to add to React app in order to deploy it to Heroku. It's because it's front end stuff.
There's some in today's lecture materials. There's some ways to troubleshoot that. If you're experiencing errors.
Yeah. Because I know it says like if you're receiving a very specific application error, and I'm not seeing, we do Heroku logs -- tail. Let's see if it can tell us maybe what's happening. All right, app crashed, method get status 503. All right, so yeah, I'll take a look at what solutions were on there.
Essentially you just have to install some npm serve and then change your React scripts in your JSON package.json file, and it should work.
So
and the one thing, it said something about a fave icon. I know we deleted that earlier. Do you have to have a fave icon, or is that just something?
I don't know why I do that error, but it's kind of unrelated to this specific one.
All right, so let me pull that up pull that error page up or that help page up and see what that can help us with. All right, possible solutions are here. All right, so it says add this to my package.json. And then do npm install serve-s. Let's see what that does. All right, so let's see, do git add, git commit -m, modified package.json, and then git push Heroku master. Let's see what happens. All right, it says it's deployed. Give it a couple more seconds to get out of this thing. All right, let's see what happens now. Okay. All right, that fixed it. So the link to this page is on today's curriculum. So that'll help you out here. Looks like the fetch isn't working anymore. I'm not going to worry about that right now because we are running out of time. So instead, I'm just going to, again, does anyone have any questions about React and kind of this all the topic of today's lecture?
Just to verify, we don't actually need to necessarily have the what appears at the top actually match the server side as far as URLs. In theory, you could have it, non-nested on one side and completely nested on the other. They don't give
Absolutely.
the appearance of it being nested, but when it calls the API, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The routes of your React application do not affect and aren't affected by the routes of the URLs of your backend. So it's just all about, okay, how do I organize my resources on the backend so that I can access them and have a pattern going so I always know where they are. But then your routes on the front end can be whatever makes sense for your users. Which is why I should be able to go to /add wine. I don't need to go to wine/new. I can just go here. And that allows you to make your route, your URLs more maybe intuitive for your users, which is always a good thing.
And how, I know that's one side of the practice thing of, but as far as for the assessments, as far as what's being considered a crusted route, and do we need to have it crusted on both sides or nested? Sorry, nested, as mixing CRUD and nested together.
They only need to be nested on the back end, I believe.
Okay.
And if you decide to do a full React application, then the point is moot. But I'm sorry, a full Django application, then the point is moot. But yeah, if you're doing a combination Django and React project for the assessment, then you will not have to have them be nested on the front end.
Can we talk about the intent of nested on the back end? What are we driving at? I'm assuming this is linked tables, many to many. Is that what we're driving at here?
Could be many to many or one to many. So say, for example, using this wine application here as an example, say as a user, I should be able to curate a list of wines. And I want to be able to see what wines every user has curated. So in that case, and then I want to see the specific details of one wine that this particular user has created. So I might need to be able to say, okay, I want to see Kobe's, the wine that Kobe added, the details of this particular wine. Then I might want to, instead of going to /wines/ the idea of that wine, I may need to go to /users one /wines/ whatever that wine is. It's a design pattern. It's very common. We haven't really gotten into much of these design patterns yet, but it is kind of considered standard practice when you're working with relational databases. So that's just one example of what might be a nested route.
Yeah, the example helps. That's what I'm struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
When I do it myself, I can always work around doing nested.
Yeah.
I guess if we were to split it up and use React on the React side with the URLs and the routes, is it possible to, instead of have it with the int ID, or the object's ID number, we put up the object's name or title or something, so that way when somebody were to look at it, it kind of maybe makes some intuitive sense, okay, I'm reading this Chuck wine, as opposed to wine/one.
You can do that, strictly speaking. You just have to make sure that your API requests are formatted accordingly. And you also need to be aware of, okay, do I want to make this, do I know that this field is going to be unique, is the question there. Because you may say, okay, what if there's more than one, brand of wine called Chuck? Then how will it know which one to fetch? And you can set it up that it just says it fetches all wines called Chuck if that's how you want it. But I think for the assessment, we're going to be looking for fetching by ID.
Okay. Yeah, well, I was just thinking on the since the URLs on the React side don't necessarily match up with everything on the back side,
Mhm.
you know, so long as you created some type of filter and when you pass it along to the API and you pulled out that particular objects, I guess in the route you do have to determine that object name,
Yeah.
and then it goes to a set route.
Yeah. So like if you were making like, let me think, I don't know, like a movie database, and you say, okay, every movie has to have a unique name, even if it's, you know, a remake, and then you need to say name of movie and then year it was released, something like that. Then you could do it that way if you like. So you could say, you know, go to imdb.com/movies/The Shape of Water. Like I could see it working that way there. But the simplest way is usually just doing it by ID, because ID is already like ID has to be a unique identifier. Right. Any other questions? Okay. So let's see here. In that case, I don't, let me check something. So yeah, your challenge for today is to essentially do what I've done, is create a React application that connects to your Django application on the back end. You know, make sure you can make those API requests. Once you've done that, deploy your React app to Heroku and update the CORS policy on your Django app so that they can connect to one another. All right. In that case, I'm going to stop the recording.